Hey, Chris, how are you?
Yes, very good.
Welcome
How are you,
to,
Feisal?
all right, welcome to our webinar series, Embracing Change. So I wanted to thank you once again for taking the time. I know it's now 12 o'clock, almost lunchtime for you. So hopefully after this enjoyable 1 hour of just sharing and exchanging in terms of understanding the whole energy, heart, breath, and mind, and see how they're all interrelated, correlated, and how we can support each other and to live in congruence, right? So why don't you, I'll let you drive this, and let's, tell me where you want to begin. If you want to come with the topics, you want to do an exercise, whatever you feel like, let's get into the flow. So thank you everyone for joining. And again, thank you, Chris, for spending the time to be with us. I know you have incredible knowledge, incredible background, and in the whole space of stress and breakdown and burnout and all of that. But I think today we're going to go hopefully into the more positive side of resilience and adaptability and agility in terms of the honor and privilege to be human. So on to you, Chris.
Thank you, Feisal. Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Maybe we can start with a little exercise to connect with ourselves, because many times, as being a sportsman, the first thing we do before a race is to connect with ourselves and be focusing actually the energy, the heart, the breath, and the mind into a synchronized way so we can perform at our best. So why don't we just sit straight up and lift our arm to just stretch up a little bit and getting a little space and open up the breath cage, and then gradually bring it back to where we were from the beginning. And as you know, the breathing pattern is a fundamental way in the way. So why don't we just start to try to put your hand on your belly and see how do you actually breathe for the time being. Many people doesn't really think about the breathing, but the breathing is very fundamental. And in this quick exercise, we're just going to try to breathe very, very smoothly. If you can visualize a wave moving up and down, and in that wave there is a little ball, and that ball moves up on the top of the wave, and then it moves down. The same thing as you are inhaling is when the inhale, the ball moves up, and then when you exhale, it moves down, and it becomes very, very nice and smoothly breathing. So by doing this, we also have a tendency to release tension in the body. So why don't you close your eyes if you want, and just try to see this ball moving up very, very nicely, come up to the top and very smoothly move over the top, and then it goes down in the valley, and then it's faded out, and then it starts again. So this very rhythmic way of moving up and moving down. And when it comes down to the bottom, it just serves out a little bit, because that's where you trigger a very interesting nerve called the vagus nerve, and making you feeling even more relaxed and much more in a sense of well-being. So just continue to breathe in very smoothly, come up to the top and just surf over the top very nicely, and then you go down, and then you come to the bottom, you breathe out and surf on that wave. And then once again, you breathe in and you come up at the top, and you breathe down again very slowly and nicely. And this in a rhythmic way, when you start to feel that you are actually connecting with your heart, with your breath and your mind, because everything is slowing down. So the signal from the heart is telling you, I feel safe. So when it comes to the brain, it feels I'm safe. So the energy where it goes in the body is much more calmer and much more relaxed, and you're connecting with your inner self. And that's the whole purpose with this exercise. So just one more, breathing in very slowly and feeling how the belly goes up, come up over the top, and then breathing down, and then surfing off the waves. So you feel the sensation in the body and mind. So gradually you can open up your mind and open up your eyes and come back into the moment. And this kind of quick exercise is sometimes very good, because it shifts from being in the present world and coming back to where we are today, and we are much more perceptive to what we're going to talk about. So how do you feel now? Do you have a sensitive? How do you actually feel? Can you put a name on how do you feel? Sometimes when you ask people, how do you feel? they're struggling, they don't know how they feel. Does it feel right or does it feel right? So the question is, how do you feel now? Do you feel that you are in a state of calm, that you are connected with yourself? You feel that your heart, your brain, and your breath is synchrony? Because this is very important, because it gives you some guidelines. Because when we're out in the modern world, that's where it's very dangerous, because the pace of life is so fast. We are connected with the mobile phones, and everything is constantly. We wake up in the morning and directly we look at the emails, and then we rush on the bus, the tube, and so on. So constantly we are interacting with the environment, we're interacting with technology, and we interacting with other people, and there is very little space for ourselves. And finally, our body and mind starts to think, oh, my life is very speedy. And this is very interesting, because this speediness doesn't allow more than activity, and doesn't allow the recovery phase, which is fundamental, and which is really what we did now before in this exercise, having the time to breathe in and breathe out. We have a tendency to become much more shallow breathing, and we are like in a battle zone. It's constant, ongoing. And the danger is here, it becomes a maladaptive behavior physiology response pattern. So basically the body is learning, this is the way I'm living. So when you want to turn out, it can't, because it just say, no, you have to continue, go on, because this is way of life. And this is the dangers, because a lot of people are today what we call in a state of overuse. They are overusing their capabilities. They are getting into exhaustion, fatigue, and there's very little time for recovery. And the recovery is essential in today's world, that we take time to activate, to do, but also recovery. As a sportsman, we know that recovery is fundamental. And that's why we talk about energy, heart, breath, and mind in connection. Because when we recover, we are able to connect this. And that's when it started to feel right. So if you can put a label on, when does it feel right? Yeah, it feels right when I feel this feeling. And this feeling sometimes is difficult in the beginning to put a name on, or put a label or a picture. But after some time of training this, it's going to be very, very clear. And you feel like a compass when you're off track, and you bring you back on track. So that's the whole item of the whole introduction, that trying to be in the driver's seat and staying in the right lane, because that's when you get to the goal. If you're on the wrong lane, you enter into risks. So that was a little introduction to the way for how we see energy as fundamental, how we see the senses to linking the heart and the breath and the mind in a synchronous way to making us perform healthy in our daily life.
Okay, so now again, so you're saying that once we do it, we understand what it feels like, and then we need to continuously learn to remember and to go back home. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's right? Exactly what I'm hearing.
With the busyness of life, we forget what it means to come back home and to be calm and to be settled and to be truly grounded and at ease, at peace within.
That's right. That's right. That's the essence.
And so this breathing exercise that you just brought us through, how long and how frequent do you do this yourself, or do you recommend to those who want to remember, to come back home? How often or how frequent?
So basically, I mean, I think further down here, we're going to talk about that setting the pace in the morning is probably very important. And this can be a way of doing this mind-body coherence exercises. But then throughout the day, when you feel that you have a little space, you're on the tube, you're on the bus, you're in between the call, that you synchronize yourself and connect with yourself again. And this little exercise is very simple, especially when you see this little ball breathing in, and when you go over the top. Sometimes when you're stressed, it's become very edgy, but when you go on the top and you're smooth, it smooths out, and then it brings down to the deeper exhale, and you are able to surf out the breathing cycle. So that gives us also a sensation, am I in control? Do I feel right or not? And if it's too pushy, maybe you are in a performance thing, then it's probably more pushy. But when you are resting, it shouldn't be like that. It should be very smooth.
And you've been doing this as an athlete, or this is something that you started to do later in life? Were you trained like this when you were a professional athlete?
Yes, we were trained like that, because it's quite interesting when you do a presentation like we're doing today. I said to my wife, this presentation is similar to you gathering the knowledge and then you putting it into sequences. And it's like doing a slalom race. So you have put all the poles. So now you have the poles and you have the race. And then, as many athletes do, they go into this little ball before actually the competition starts, which means that you are synchronizing yourself with your heart. You feel how you feel confident. I know my message. And then you breathe very nicely and smoothly in coherence. Coherence is not the same as relaxation there, because you want to be explosive after. So it's a coherence when you synchronize your heart rate and your heart rate variability together with the breathing, which trigger hormones to the brain and saying, I'm ready, I'm confident, I'm ready to go. So this is the process you do before the race, and then you go into the starting gate, and then you're ready to perform.
So this is the preparation to really explode and go for it. And then did they give you a different training when it came to rest and recovery post the race? Or was it very similar, just different intentionality?
It's a different intentionality. And I think that's a very interesting part of this discussion today, because when we talk about coherence breathing, that means or the mind-body coherence is to be able to perform as our best. And executives and the salesperson, etc., preparing for this meeting, getting into the state of confidence. I have the knowledge, I have the skills, I know what I should do, and I'm connected. And then I perform it. And then once you've done the performance and you finish the finish line, that's where you do recovery. And that's more a recovery when you actually rest and restore, because you've been burning energy, you've been executing, you're being there. So now you need to rest and restore. So rest is a more relaxing way. You are in a different synchrony of the brain waves, and also in a different frequency, in resonance frequency, which is more what we call in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is triggering in and adding you to restore the energy and rest and get ready for the next one. And this is interesting because, you know, many people, they don't have that time. So what they do, they activate, and it's actually they're building up like a staircase. So they're just blowing the roof end of the day and falling into bed completely dead, and then wake up next morning tired again. And that's not the purpose.
So walk us through how we should move forward and understand these pieces and build them so that we have the sustainability and in a healthy way, that we're able to explode, rest and recover, be explosive, be in full expression of self, but in a healthy and mindful manner.
So basically what you're saying in healthful and a mindful manner, and to access this mindful manner, we can actually start by listening to our heart. I mean, we know so many books about listening to the heart, and the heart is actually quite interesting, because the heart is not just a pump. The heart actually has its own brain. It has 40,000 neurons. And in that neuron system, which is a network, the heart can actually feel, think, and remember. And this is interesting. The heart will be able to remember situation where you were in control, where you're not in control. And it triggers also a response, which is signaled and sent to the brain. And when the heart is scattered, it means that it's sending a signal to the brain, which is a little bit more, I'm under stress, I'm not safe, I feel worried. So the brain is actually triggering that response through the biochemistry into the system, which is saying that we are reacting to it. So here we can actually make a shift by listening to the heart and helping the heart to sense the situation, because there are certain situations when we are incoherent that actually the heart can sense before the brain notice. And this is interesting, because the heart in itself is very, very powerful. And if we are able to bring that consciousness into the heart and link it to the breathing, and we talk then about something called heart rate variability, which is actually making, when you breathe in, the heart rate goes up, and when you breathe down, it goes down. And this is one type of heart rate variability. We call it respiratory sinus arrhythmia. And this is a way of seeing how fit you are. But at the same time, in heart rate variability, you are measuring the interbeat intervals, the difference of the R peaks, to see what is the difference in between. And when you are in stress, it's very, very, very short. And when you are more in a coherent, in a relaxed way, it is a little bit longer. It means that the autonomic nervous system is triggered in a more parasympathetic way. And here we are trying to find a way of coherence, the coherence in the synchrony of the breathing and the heart rate variability within a specific frame, which we call the sorry, we call it the resonance frequency, which means the resonance frequency is the same as the frequency we have on the Earth. It's actually 0.1 hertz. And when we are in that state, it means that both the autonomic nervous system, both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic part is working together and power up the energy. And that's where we are connecting with the mind and bringing out our best. So the heart is a very strong part in our way of living, and sometimes people forget about it. They feel it when they are starting to get anxious, but it's something also you can actually dialogue with and starting to understand how the heart is moving. So the heart is a strong piece in this synchrony. And then the second part in this synchrony is, of course, the breathing. And many people doesn't think about breathing. They think of breathing like blinking the eyes or doing something, but breathing is much more. Actually, breathing is something that we, of course, subconsciously is doing naturally when we are sleeping or are sitting, and as I'm talking now. But also breathing can be conditionally structured, that we can actually use the breathing in different manners. And the breathing, often you see people, they are shallow breathing because they don't have time to breathe fully through the abdomen and through the belly breathing, because it takes too much time, because they use by the behavior physiology or the pressure from outside. So they actually shift the breathing pattern to become very shallow and very little. So in the end, what's happening, they are supplying the body with less oxygen. And this is a deficit for the body, because the body will, hey, I don't have enough oxygen. I need something. I'm in unsafe. So by learning the pattern of proper breathing, which is actually belly breathing, many people doesn't think that. Breathing is belly breathing. If you look at a little baby, you see how the belly is going up and down, very normal. And when you are very relaxed and sitting, you can put your hand on your belly and you breathe, and you feel how the hand is moving out when you're breathing in, and you feel when it's moving out. And if it's not the case, you can actually learn it by putting a heavy book on your belly when you're lying down and try to just feel how the book is going up and down and up and down. And this is the way of training that diaphragmatic breathing, which is the belly breathing, which is helping you to release the space in the lungs to be optimized. Because if you are shallow breathing and the diaphragm is up, it means that the only half of the lung capacity is used. And by constructing the diaphragm and falling down, it brings an empty space there. The lung can actually expand and take in much more air. So the breathing is fundamental, and you can actually use breathing also to relieve stress. And I will show you one very interesting technique, which is called the instant stress reliever. It's a technique that has 3 steps. The first step is to breathe in at the count of 4. I don't say second, at the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That you breathe in as maximum as you can, but very slowly. And then the second part is hold at the count of 7. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. And then the last part is exhale at the count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Which is a way to get the oxygen in, hold, which is helping you to hold the autonomic nervous system more in the synchrony, and then exhaling and relieving the tension. And if you do that in 4 cycles, for example, 4 times, then you will see a very good way of reducing anxiety, pressure, and tension. And also it's very good to do if you wake up in the night or want to go to sleep, because it helps you to calm down and enter into a very nice sleep. So if you want, we can try it.
Yeah, let's do that. So let's go ahead, lead us, please.
Okay, so if you put your hand on your belly, and then you breathe in, and at the count of 4. So follow me. You breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold, and now you hold for the count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now you breathe out very smoothly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. And that's, you start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe in. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now you breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And now once again, breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And breathe out smoothly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 7, 8. And now you take the last one, which is breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now you breathe out very slowly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now you open up the eyes. Do you feel any sensation? Do you feel something of release? You feel calmer? Maybe the first time it's maybe a little more difficult, but if you practice this a couple of times per day, you will very gradually see that it's going to be an effect, that you're breathing in is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you smooth very nicely out the exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're going to feel how the tension actually going away. You can start to feel it also in your legs and the mind, and everything starting to become much more calm and relaxed. So this is a way very instantly you can do.
So can you explain one more time, when you're holding, what is happening in terms of the autonomic nervous system and the oxygen you're explaining? Can you go a little deeper? What's happening from the holding? What's the advantage of holding?
So the holding part is to stop the process, because it's actually synchronized. And sometimes when you are stressed, you feel that this holding is difficult because you want to breathe out because your body is rushing. Here you actually voluntary is breaking up the autonomic nervous system to be much more in synchrony, and then allowing you to very nicely breathe out smoothly. It was similar to the point when you see the little ball, when you were breathing out and you're coming up of the top of the way. And when you are stressed, you actually just go very quickly down. But when you're starting to master it, you go very nicely over the top into the exhale, and then you are able to surf out. So with here, you're doing 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, where you fill your lungs, and then you hold. It means you're very, very calm over the top, but you do it for until 7, and then you smoothly breathe out, which means that you are actually controlling the breathing cycle. And you're controlling the mind, so it becomes much more relaxing and is adaptable and breathing. And if you take yogis, for example, and you probably are doing yoga yourself, in the relaxation, you breathe maybe 2, 3 breaths per minute maximum. So that's where you are in this relaxed conscious state. And this is the way for the instant relaxation reliever, is to break that pattern of being rushy, pushy, and just getting into this smooth way.
Incredible. So this is, again, more for the rest and restore, or just to create more calmness?
Exactly, to rest and restore and get out of this anxious moment of feeling pressure and so on. And sometimes you are sitting in a chair and you feel restless without any need. So this is the way how you actually can do it. When you wake up middle of the night thinking a lot of things, and this is the way how you can restore that calm pattern and dive in again to a deep sleep. But there is also, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead. There's
also another part you can do for paced breathing. And paced breathing, you can do paced breathing for a longer time, especially when we talk about mind-body coherence, or heart, breath, and mind coherence, where we actually want the autonomic nervous system to fire up together. And this paced breathing becomes a very nice cycle. So there are apps today where you can actually download, and they show you paced breathing. It goes in for 5 seconds and it goes out to 5 seconds, and it's continued like this. And this paced breathing can go on for 10 to 20 minutes in part, which is a way to reset system of the body into a coherent way and balance out the system so it actually works on a much higher level in coherence, which is really the optimal part of health. So I really recommend that trying to do paced breathing, and trying to do it, for example, I do it every morning for 20 minutes, because that sets my pace of the day. I feel much calmer. I take out my day much calmer in a way of breathing in what is coming and processing and then breathe it out, instead of getting directly on my emails and getting fired up in the fifth gear. No, I start on the first gear and very smoothly and going nicely. So by setting this framework in the morning, you can do the same before lunch, because then you eat slower, you eat actually more consciously. And then the end of the day, before you go home for work, you can do the same thing to anchor, what have I achieved today? What shall I do tomorrow? And feeling much calm when you go home and you meet your loved ones. So sometimes I remember when I was running business and traveling a lot, sometimes you forget to decompress before you come home. So you're living this stressful life of being in the airplane, and then you come home and you continue doing. So this is actually a way of decompressing, because the day has different stages. So decompress. You remember James Bond when he was decompressing underwater?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you can see the water, how it actually go down, and it goes down very, very slowly. And this is the same thing here when you do paced breathing. The tension goes down. It goes down very, very slowly. It takes a little time, but it actually reaches the point, and then you feel decompressed and you're ready for your private life or something different.
I do this before going to sleep every day, right? And
Yes.
through the yoga in dead man's pose. So the energetics start to move up and down, but I don't hold the breath like you're saying for 7. So I'm going to try that tonight and see how different it is.
I mean, I think we all have, and as you are sharing, all have our pattern that works, and patterns that works, it's very nice to use. And sometimes we can play around, but also good pattern of working is no idea to change them, because they are working, and everything is adapted to our different personalities we are and so on. So I mean, yoga is a fantastic thing. The yoga takes a little bit of time for beginners to learn. So this could be a way of getting very easily into this stress relief.
Yeah.
So the interesting part is when we have the synchrony of the heart, and we can access the intelligence of the heart, we can also think differently, because the heart is actually different, actually signaling a different signal to the brain, and reinforced by the breathing. So the brain is not going into this amygdala, which is often happening, that it's going into an auto response and finding the quick solution and reactive. It actually goes into much more into the cognitive part, into the cortex, where we have all the knowledge. And that's interesting, because that's where we can create new items, and we are innovative. And we can also finding strategies, we can think deeper, we can understand what's going on. We can actually check different assumptions, because we are in a deeper level. And sometimes when we are in the daily life, we are pushed among a lot of things, and we are pushed on to take rapid decisions. And why we can't stop back a little bit? And we have created some technique, and one technique is called redial. For example, somebody's coming and asking you about a question, and you want to give a good question. So you can actually connect your heart and your breath and your mind in an observer mood, that you don't react, you just observe, what is that person asking me? And you observe it in the way of detecting, what does it mean? You also see the person's body language. So you just stop, and then you interpret, what do you really think he is or she is asking for? And you give your time to analyze, to go deeper in, because you are in calm, you are in connection, you are breathing calmly and nicely, and that's where you're starting to feel the answers. And maybe it's not the right answer, but anyway, it's the first answer, and then you live it. What most people do, they actually detect something and they live it right away. They forget these elements in between, the interpretation and the analyze. And that makes a big difference in how do you actually execute it, and how do you communicate, and how do you set communication with the person who's asking you. Because we can't know everything from the beginning, but sometimes we are so rushed with we think what we have to know, we have to answer, we have to process, we have to speed, because that's how life is for us. But here we are changing a completely different manner. We're taking the sportsman, we're taking the person we are, we're using our intelligence, we're listening to the heart, we are breathing, and we access the brain where we have learned everything. And we're using that intelligence instead of going into the reptile brain where we just respond to things very quickly. So there is a lot of gain in by having energy. I mean, energy, we know it comes from exercise, it comes from what you eat and sleep, and having that energy available together with the heart and the breath to access the intelligence of the mind, because the mind is amazing. But you know, a lot of people, they don't even use the mind. And I know myself, it's happened when I don't use the mind because I'm just going in autopilot. We are humans.
So how do you leverage it? So you explain that element and to be able to be objective, right? It's always that, am I showing up? Am I reacting or I'm responding? And what I hear from you, from the objectivity, you're saying to create that ability to respond rather than react. That's what I'm
exactly
hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And I think that's the real thing, that responding instead of reacting. Because if I take my word as a skier, for example, when we go through a slalom gate, you need to respond, anticipate the turn, because if you are reacting, you're always late and then you will go off track very, very quickly, and you are using a lot of energy in waste. But if you are anticipating and you're responding and allowing you to observe the question, or observe the person, or observe the situation without acting before, you will be much more intelligent in way how you execute, because most of the time you have the knowledge. You remember when you were sitting and thinking about what should I say and so on and so on, I didn't remember, and then you back out a little bit, woof, it comes up. It's there. So we have it. We need to use it in the proper way, and not just going forcing and moving. And I think that's a little bit about the problem of today's life. We are just so reactive. We are in a reactive mood most of the time, and we don't even think what we are doing, and we find out what I'm doing here. That's a crazy world, huh?
Yeah.
So
no, it's the go. You're right.
Yeah, it is. And I had a client once, and he said, I mean, we were in Zermatt working with a group of people, and after the third day, he said, oh, wow, we are in Zermatt. He hadn't noticed. He's been there for 3 days. He's just been around there, and he's been driving his things. So unfortunately, many people are living a moment without being there. And we, for example, using another technique called pre-live. There is so many things we can pre-live. We can actually foresee and play with the assumption that we can pre-live a scenario. You know, golf players, I mean, you are a tennis player, you pre-live the scenario, so you actually get the right thing in the mood. And that's when you actually hit it in reality. It goes the right way. So we can actually anticipate, and taking the time to anticipate to reduce the execution time. And this is a lot of gain. So we don't have to struggle in the moment. We actually have done it before.
Okay. So it's basically, is it a visualization or is it more energetic? So it's actual visual, or can you explain it in terms of practicality?
So it's basically it's the both. It's the having the energy and the time for doing it, and then visualizing the assumption, what will happen and how shall I actually hit this ball. And if I'm a golf player, how am I gonna hit it? And you actually see your hit, and you see how the ball actually going into the hole or coming to the pit. So you pre-live the scenario. You have the energy of being calm, so you can see, I'm able to do it, I have the content. So you're living the whole thing, and this helps you when you execute. It's just a matter of make it happen.
Okay, so you're actually building the neurocircuitry already in advance, so that it's not a new thing, it's actually already been done, and so that the calmness remains.
Exactly, and you build it in the brain, and you also build it in the heart, because you know the heart has also it's a neuron. So basically, the heart recognizes. So when you're standing in the front of the situation, it doesn't have to be worried. Oh, I know this. I have done this before. So it becomes
okay. So wait. So you're telling me just like the neurocircuitry exists in the brain, where they always say, right? You draw a line and then you keep drawing it, and it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. You're telling me there's one in the heart as well? The same neurocircuitry?
It's a similar neurocircuitry in the heart. You have a network of neurons, about 40,000, which can we can feel, think, and remember. It's not that same intelligence like you have in the brain, but it's there. So it can trigger the feeling of being in control, that it tells you, Faisal, you are in control, that access that knowledge you have in your brain. Because if you're not in control, it may be going to amygdala and saying, wow, I will fail. So basically it sidecut that into that the part what you have in your brain, or make it happen. So
the preempt is from the heart, not from the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, the heart is sending much more signals to the brain than the brain is sending to the heart. Yeah. So the heart, and especially when you are in this in a coherent mood state, you have this intelligence. So you get to actually the heart can feel before actually the brain is acting.
And what about the gut in this picture? Because the gut also, again, has a lot more messaging going to the brain than the brain has to the gut. So where is going first? Is the heart or the gut? And I know the brain is always the last, but.
So basically, I think the heart is actually going first. The gut feeling could also be a certain relation sometimes that we feel that when we have taken a decision, there was something missing because we didn't listen to our heart or to our gut. So I think the intuition is something in between, and it is there. So the gut feeling or the heart feeling is certain combinations, and the gut is where we also have a lot of information and element to alter a higher level of consciousness.
Okay.
So all this is training and being aware, and it starts to the point and learning, how does it feel? Does it feel right? Does it feel right, the hit of the ball? Does it feel right in the tennis swing? Because this is something you are learning. You're learning the behavior, and you know also the cells and the muscles, they're all learning. So it becomes a very smooth way of using it, and it feels right. When I was skiing, when you ski, sometimes you ski and you don't use energy because it just feels right. When you're surfing, the same thing. You're surfing on the wave, and you're big waves, and you have big waves, and if you fall down, you're going to hit through the rocks. You don't think about that because it feels right. You are in the moment. You are in the flow. And I think learning that part and exploring this is the secret. By connecting, you have energy in the first place. That's part of the vital thing. And then you have the access to your heart, to your breath, and your mind. And then you make it play.
So you're basically saying that how do we preempt so that we can continuously be in choice, in flow?
Yes.
Right, which is what people call the zone.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you physically prepare yourself, which comprises of your heart, your energy, your breath, and your mind? That's what is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. So I think this is the element. Most of the people probably have the basic knowledge. They understand it, they know to do it, but implement it, apply it in daily life is the problem. So here we need a little bit of discipline. We need a little bit discipline and setting aside certain routines. And I think when we were talking a little bit the other day when we met, I like the way you were talking, because routines is a way of making things happen in a proper way. And I think we need to allocate time. For example, for me, I take time for myself in the morning. I do my mind-body coherence, or the heart, breath, mind coherence, breathing pattern for 20 minutes. And then I try to do some exercises to making sure that my batteries is full. But it also starts with the evening, that you get some food in and you sleep well. So you have it. And I think that's part of the responsibility. And I remember when I did a lot of seminars and traveling the world, every morning, if my seminar started at 8, I was up at 5 to be ready, to be prepared, to having full energy and being ready for the people, because they came and they paid for my service and I wanted to give my best. Too often we see people coming in, oh, I'm sorry, I missed this, I haven't done that. I mean, all these excuses. We don't need that. So you're not prepared if you are a sports person, you're giving an excuse, no, I haven't the right shoes and so on. I mean, it's your problem. Don't talk about that. Now it's here. So I think we need to prepare, we need to set some kind of a structure and apply these techniques and allowing us to learn it, because it will take some time. It doesn't come overnight. It's probably going to take mostly, we see between 8 to 10 weeks. But if you do it on a daily basis, step by step, you just feel how you grow. And this is the benefit. This is the excitement of doing it.
So when you're speaking of the 3 hours earlier, what was the routine if you don't mind to share,
So
that
the
you've
3
had
hours.
to prepare.
So basically, the 3 hours earlier, it was, I mean, taking the time for the 20 minutes in the morning to setting your mind. I have my papers, I have the things. So just feeling that you are in control and confidence, feeling that this is going into the body in a very calm way. So the body is, it means the heart and the breath and the mind is synchronized and feeling this is true. We're living it now. So this is the 20 minutes before starting it, a glass of water or something like that, and then going out for a jogging run or going down when you were in a hotel in the fitness room or doing. And what's fantastic is when you are in new cities, you can go out and run in the morning. That may be some cars, but not very many. And you discover the town, or you can even brisk walking if you like it, but at least go out and be there, because that also sets the energy, the endorphins in the body. And then when you are you're taking your shower, you go down to the breakfast, you take your time, you feel calm, and you eat your breakfast, you take fruits or whatever you like. So you're starting to really get ready. And this takes about 2 hours, because there's no idea to rush, because then you're on the wrong path. You need to take that time. And sometimes when you're out running, maybe you lose the track, so you need a little bit of extra time. So it's good to have this buffer, because the buffer gives you the ability to stay flexible in between. And then you, the last hour is just going from A to B, be ready, preparing yourself, and do this, what we did in the beginning, connect with yourself. What is the audience? What is the people? What is the message? What you're going to do? And how do I see myself? End of the day, I see myself that people are happy, they are glad, they say thank you, and I've done my best. That's the objective. The same with golf. I see it in the hole. That's where I want it to be. And that creates satisfaction, confidence, and it also gives engagement. So in the pyramid of energy, we have physical ability, having the energy to perform. Then this physical ability helps you to create mental capacity, access the brain, accessing the knowledge you need for that particular thing, keeping the emotions stable, feeling the emotions, the positive emotions, and at the same time, the behavior, action, how you behave, preparing and being there. And this is the willingness to perform. And then you're ready to go. So this is some kind of a staircase. When those elements are in place, and most of the time they are in place, it becomes a routine, just kicks in.
So basically what I'm hearing is an embodiment of what is about to come and in preparation to what to come.
Exactly.
Right? So when we do values exercises, or we do vision exercises with families, we don't just do the physical, right? Which I mean, we're not just doing the brain exercise of the left brain of writing them down, but you're also emotionally connecting to it, and you're also, in terms of body embodiment of it. So what happens is, as you say those, or as you move through, when you move the body with it, you know whether you're in congruence. And that's what I'm hearing. Is that right? So that you're preparing your body to be in full sync, and so that it's just an absolute flow with, and if there's any nicks or interruptions, you're already releasing them in advance, so that they don't end up in your way during that conversation or that conference or whatever you're delivering.
Excellent. Exactly. Very nice summarized, because embodying the whole thing to make it able to perform and be there when you need it.
Okay. Wow.
So I mean, if you think, I mean, I think professional people, executives and managers, and all of us, if you compare to I remember Jim Lohr at the Human Health Institute in Florida many years ago. He was making the word the corporate athlete. I mean, we need to prepare ourselves as being an athlete, because we all perform, and as an athlete, we train 90% and we perform 10%. So basically, I think in the corporate world, in our world, we probably can bring in a certain time of more training to be the master of this game, because as you was nicely saying, when it needs, it pulls in without, like this. It's like when you're driving a car on ice, you trained it, you know how to do it, and when it comes, you just react. You just anticipate what's happening, because you feel it before it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole key. You can actually feel now it's coming. So you are preparing, or the body is automatically prepared, because your heart, your brain, your system is aware if it comes.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? The whole game, you know, when we're that, like you said, we're an athlete in the game of life,
Yes.
right? And at the same time, but in that athlete in the game of life, the athletes have, like you said, a lot of time off versus training and playing, right? And we don't do that, right?
Yeah.
We don't take that time off. And as a result, we end up in what you are specialized in, which is burnout and stress and all of those pieces, right? So
Yeah.
the question is, what practices, like you say, habits, can you put into play every day, right, in order to create that rest and recovery, in order to have that embodiment? And also, I think when you're speaking the embodiment, what I'm hearing is less leakage. Because if I've embodied it, if I anticipated it, if I'm ready and I'm prepared in all senses, heart, body, mind, right, then I use less energy so that my car lasts longer, right? And that I don't run out of gas, right? So that the cup spills, but minimally. I don't have these large spills, right? Because I haven't anticipated, I haven't embodied it. I'm not ready. I'm not, like you said, when the question comes, I'm not doing that piece of bringing myself to objectivity. Because when I react, there's a leak. When I respond, it's a lot more fluid, right?
Exactly.
Is
Yeah,
that
exactly? You're speaking like the book. That's perfect. It's exactly. And it's interesting what you're saying. This also, I mean, longevity and of life. And unfortunately, research is coming out that the millennium will have maybe a less long lifespan due to the fact that they are constantly in reactive mood. They don't take this time for recovery and being in the flow and anticipating and taking advantage of the energy they have. There's a lot of energy going waste because it's constantly being there. I have to be there. I have to be seen. I've been on Instagram and Facebook and everything what it's called.
so you're saying the technology is creating the reactivity?
Yes, it's great because and the
Wow.
connectivity that you are there and there is research coming out that the digital world, which is fantastic, but it becomes an integrating part, and the speed of life of the digital world is doing is the new normal, and the new normal is not to be boom 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 boom. The new normal is to use it, but at the same time activate and recover and being in that flow that we actually master it. And I think a lot of people doesn't do that, and I'm one. Maybe sometimes we all are, but we need to learn it in a better way.
Wow.
And
Well, we've
and
got
you were
the,
saying, and you were
yeah.
saying before that for example, I talked to a friend, you know, Peter the other day, that the many managers and executives they're having they're struggling with strategic thinking, and I think it's also a matter of time that we don't allow time to play around. We want to have this strategic solution in the next hour. No, it doesn't work like that. And I remember when doing seminars for corporation, we played around. We have something, the vital play, where we actually learn certain things they should be, and then we let people play. And they said, "This is the most funny thing I've never done." And in the end, we solved the problem. So there was laughing, and laughter is a good thing. I mean, laughing is fantastic. I mean, the laughing is releases so much good hormones into the body, and sometimes when you laugh and sometimes you stand somewhere and you're just laughing, and people are asking, "Well, you're laughing?" "Yeah, I'm just laughing," and they come laughing with you, and you get a synchrony. It's quite fun. So
Okay, that's pretty
playing out
hilarious.
yeah, so playing outside the box is sometimes nice, and not just being so rigid and yes, I have to do it because I have my tie. No, it's not about that. The body
Yeah,
is the body and mind and the whole thing. It's a very dynamic, fantastic system. So let it play.
yeah. So how do you keep the suplex, right? Like you say, the
Yes,
flow, the suplex
yeah,
of the of all of it, so that it works in sync and
yes,
doesn't, work against each other, right? That's where the friction and the leakage happens, when there isn't
exactly,
fluidity, as you say, right?
exactly.
So what was the discussion with Peter to support and change that? What did you guys come back with or discuss as a way or forward with that issue?
So basically, we should have another call, and I think the strategic thinking in many time is to allow time to come, and also allow yourself to come and be much more conscious with yourself, and trying to listen to your body and mind, and also listen to the other people. What do they have to say without needing to come up with the perfect answer right away? And today, I think the strategic thinking is often deliberately pushed through because the time frame is not there. And especially the people, when they come into the thinking process or being in the meeting, they are not there because they're coming for something else and they're not prepared. And I think that's the whole key, and that's a little bit what we're talking about. If we don't prepare ourselves, we can't anticipate. We are in a reactive move. I didn't think about that and so on. And many times, I think we see in corporate world and in many times, people are coming unprepared because they don't have the time. And finally, it becomes a pattern.
Okay, so there's two parts. One is preparation, but I think the other piece you're telling me is to allow for time to come up with a solution that's strategic. So it's
Yes.
two sides. One having the time for preparation and one having the time to actually go through the process of that strategic piece, right? And again, in that strategic piece, right, it's, you know, I've done a leadership review recently, and there's, you know, pre-cancer, I was classified as the achiever. And then post-cancer, because of what happened to me, I became more of a democratic leader, where I was taking everybody's opinion and really not taking too many decisions myself as a leader. And then you move to strategic, where you're actually listening, but then you also have the capability and the willingness to make those hard decisions, right? And I think, you know, but again, to do that, you still need to take the time to listen and to take, you know, without the reactivity, as you said, you know, objectively listen, take it in, reflect on it, take the time to reflect on it, but then give yourself the time consciously and subconsciously to come up with the strategic decision after having taken out all those pieces, right? And you may you may agree or disagree with what everybody else said, but at least you've had the space. I think you're also talking about spaciousness within, right?
And I fully agree with you. And the space is the problem, because people doesn't allocate the space. We're going to have this strategic meeting for 2 hours. No, the space is before, during, and after. And that's just what you're saying. I mean, to be prepared and to be in it and digest it, and then probably come back to it as well to discuss more, because we are so rigid in our way of acting. Everything is going so fast, and we don't allow space, and we don't allow error, because there's no time for correcting errors. I mean, error is the best way of learning. In some cases, not everywhere, but anyway, I mean, how many times in sport, in life, we haven't done error because we learn from them, and finally we get into the mastery.
Whole point of practice is to push through the right, what is not working, right? And actually sometimes you start with what's not working to make you go towards what's working, right? When you play tennis and you want to hit a topspin, you hit high and maybe out, and then slowly the ball starts to come in closer and closer, even though you want it as far close to the baseline as possible, right? But it begins out many a times, because it's better out than in the net, right? So you begin out and work in, because if you work in to continuously towards the net, your margin of error is still very high. So I think that's what you're speaking about, is that, now again, talking about that, right? That margin of error, right? Allowing that error. Do you feel that it's dissipated, that corporations, and I mean, I know you're dealing with a lot of leaders, do you feel that margin of error and that acceptance of error is completely no longer there? There's no room? There's no tolerance? Is that what you're hearing and seeing?
I think it's probably there, but you know, when people are stressed and pushed and rushed and in the speedy world, they don't accept tolerance in the same way as when you are calm, relaxing, open, and so on. You accept tolerance. You accept that people can say wrong things, because this is part of the conversation. We are in the learning phase. We are in the practice. You try different things, and this doesn't mean that this is the way how it's going to be. You're having different assumptions. But when you
go ahead.
So basically when people are under pressure and stressed and then they need to show their pride and everything, they don't have the time to let go. And I think that's the exercise we did of this vital play, that there was space for playing, for doing, sometimes we can say silly things, but it was actually very creative and it was very rewarding. And finally, outcome was amazing, and they didn't believe it. And I think the playing factor in the way of playing and being and sitting, chatting that we are doing now, and we're walking, that's the humanizing the part that I think sometimes is missing today a little bit. Everything is going so fast, it's digital, it's we need that human connection, because the human connection is not just our heart, breath, and mind, and because it's also the synchronized, the resonance synchronicities of 1 hertz is actually the same synchrony with the earth and also with other people. So our way of synchrony with other people is fundamental, and if we don't give that time, we are losing out quite a lot.
So what I'm hearing from you is that the original idea of having meetings, right, in the traditional sense, was to have dialogue and to have open dialogue and to let your guard down. And it wasn't important whether you're right or wrong, ridiculous or practical or impractical, right, realistic or unrealistic. It was just to open up to possibility. Yes. And so ego was not relevant. And as a result, from that, a lot more creativity and a lot more possibility happened. And now, when everybody is time constrained, goal oriented or task oriented, and of course, concerned about how they look, right, within that space, there's a whole restriction of having this much possibility to walking or working in a very narrow lane.
Yes.
So is that what is happening? And that is why a lot of the innovation is not coming from big companies, but rather from outside companies, right? That they eventually end up buying, right? Successfully or unsuccessfully, we won't go there now, right? So is that what I'm hearing when you talk about the fun and the play and all of that, that dialogue is not authentic, it's not open, it doesn't have room for being wrong?
I think, yes, partly yes. And I remember what you're saying, this setting people under processes, that we go into processes, that everything has a process. And I remember a company, a large Swiss insurance company, one person, he sat up and he said, I'm an executive and I'm specialized in this and this and this, but I don't have the right to play my skills anymore. I'm just following processes and going through. And this created a lot of frustration and also inhibited him to take the right decision, because he was not allowed.
Oh, so he was in a straitjacket. Okay,
yeah,
he was
exactly.
in a straitjacket.
And then if you then go to new startups where there's a different mindset and there's a different, there the innovation comes from doing mistakes and learning and preparing and things like this. So I think that it is in the company's culture that we want to be open and we want to have open processes and discussion. But unfortunately, I think many people are driven by processes, and that becomes part of their genes. So they can't think out of the box anymore. And they have just to have this because this is important for me and imposing. So liberty of playing, even playing, if you think about ice hockey or football, is playing. Professional playing is to score. But at the same time, if you don't play on the match and you see the tension between the players, you will not be the winning team. And I think this is also something in the corporate world. We need to have the ability to play, allow people to play freely with their mind and body and their heart, and have this in connection and not just pushing. It becomes too rigid.
So they're playing by their playbook rather than open to the playbook of life or the playbook in general.
Yes, okay. And humans are playing creatures. I mean, we are playing and we have fun when we play. We laugh. I mean, laughing is such a strong thing in life. And if we don't laugh or playing music or do certain things, go think out of the box, because many times when you think outside the box, you get the answer inside the box. That's what the thing I was looking for.
Yeah.
So perfect. I think the connection of having the energy, the ability to perform is something vital. The same as you have your smartphone, you need to have the energy to use it, otherwise it goes off. And then with this ability to connect with your heart and sense the heart, and having the heart signaling the right signals, which is smoother to the brain, and at the same time reinforce that with breathing, I think we can be much more efficient and less destructive in terms of spending energy, and hopefully also more happier. And a lot of people are happy. They have everything in their hand, but sometimes the stress and the speed and the thing is forgetting to play it.
Okay. All right, Chris, as you probably can imagine, we've already passed 1 hour of us having this conversation.
Oh.
Yes. So in terms of, I know you just created a very beautiful concluding remark, but is there something you'd like to share for them to try or to remind, or something that we didn't cover as a closing remark before we say goodbye to everyone who is watching, and obviously those who will watch in the recording?
Thank you, Feisal. I think one thing is to set the pace of the day in the morning. That not just starting with the emails and rushing and put the fifth gears right away. Take the time to really do a heart, breath, and mind coherence exercise, and you try to put it in for 20 minutes. I think it's going to be difficult in the beginning, but sometimes setting the alarm clock earlier so you have this empty space for yourself, and connect with that, because that's going to give you quite a lot of energy and also stability and intelligence and understanding. And then maybe pull in some exercises during the day so you have the energy to perform. And don't forget that the energy and hydration and sleeping is also a vital element to sustain good performance. But doing this in a more conscious way, I think, will help us to perform at a better way and being much more alive.
And I think to remind, thank you, Chris, is what you said, is that actually exercise of what you're referring to puts you in the driver's seat, not in the co-pilot seat, not in the passenger seat, right? That you lead your day rather than be led or try to catch up. And I think that is what people are missing. They hear you, they feel you, but when you said that puts you in the driver's seat, it's really the driver's seat where you're leading your day, you're leading your life. You are the one making choice, not being chosen for, or not following, trying to catch up all day. And I think that is the piece that you mentioned. And I think it would be good to remind everyone that that's the magic at the end of the day as well.
Yes, you're definitely right. And I think self-leadership today is a big question. And I think that's something we all need to learn more. And I think that's part of what we can do as the next step is be your own leader.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone who's watching and those who will watch later. We're going to be back in 2 weeks. We're going to actually talk about Alzheimer's, and we've got Dale coming in. That's really an incredible doctor from Briggs who's actually found a way to deal with Alzheimer's and really help many people in genetic care and outside to support them. And then we have Philip Markovici coming back again to talk about the circular economy. And then we have Stefan from Kaiser Partners. And then we have Vanessa coming in to talk about mental health and other pieces. So we take a break next week. And then after that, we have 4 webinars in a row. And so again, Chris, thank you very much. Truly grateful. Bon appetit. Enjoy your lunch. And I can see you have beautiful weather in Switzerland. So I'm in quarantine, so I envy you clearly.
Okay, right. I bring over some energy from here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.